Let's start with the speech last night. We didn't have time to analyze it. First of all, the president, I got whacked this morning by the corrupt news media. So Tucker hands me off the show last night. They're screaming in my ear. All right, POTUS is in the building and is expected any minute now. All right, so I put aside my opening monologue because you don't want to start your monologue and then in the middle of it say, here's the president. I'll finish this later. It's not good TV. So I had you and I had Ambassador John Bolton on, and I kept hearing every other minute, nope, he's there any second now. And then they started seating, General Kelly and Hope Hicks, and the First Lady came in with, and I'm like, all right, so I'm waiting. And so we ended up doing like 17 minutes of really good, hard-hitting analysis on the situation in North Korea and around the world. And you guys were amazing. But we weren't talking about the election because I thought at any second I would be breaking. Of course, we had the election covered. And the election is a result of Ed Gillespie saying no to Donald Trump and rebuffing Steve Bannon's offer to help in the closing days of the campaign. That's a big part of it. Anyway, what are your thoughts on the president's speech first?
Just two words, just leadership and truth. I mean, that was, look, I am the child of people who escaped communist dictatorship. So it was, an emotional evening for me. Listening to those words, it was two speeches in one. The first half was about the amazing success that is South Korea. I mean, just that whole thing about the golf tournament and that, 8 out of the 10 was, women from South Korea that won the championship. It was just as you should be, being a gracious guest to your wonderful host. But the second half, my word, that was just truth. That was a wake-up call to what North Korea is, that evil exists, that it walks the earth, that we have countries today, still today, that are made up of captive populations under the boot of people like the Kim dynasty. It was an amazing moment of clarity and also a statement that America is back. And we will talk truthfully about the threats to not only ourselves, but to our friends and our allies. And it was a historic speech, in my opinion, Sean.
I loved hearing that we don't want confrontation. We're not going to run from it. And he believes in peace through strength.
Yes, I mean, this took us back. I don't know about you, but I felt like I was in a time machine going back to the 1980s. It could have been Ronald Reagan at the Brandenburg Gate. It could have been Margaret Thatcher talking about the evils of the captive nations, of the satellites of the Soviet Union. It was no more apologizing. It was no more avoiding the issue, and it wasn't making excuses for evil. We've had 8 years, for example, of the Obama White House saying, well, jihadis are just unemployed and it's economics and they're disenfranchised. And really, the terrorists might be the victims, really, at the end of the day. No, there are evil actors out there, whether it's ISIS, whether it's North Korea, whether it's Iran, and the president spoke absolutely truthfully about those threats. And he said, we're not going to go to war. It's not our intent to go to war, but we will not back down if you threaten us. And that's exactly the message you give to a bully like the regime in North Korea.
What did you think of the elections last night? Now, interesting, Nate Silver, who Democrats worship at the altar of, even he rightly said that the race in Virginia, for example, is not a good predictor of things to come. I know that the president had offered, my understanding, to go in there. We know Ed Gillespie wouldn't even, declined, apparently. Bannon offered a stump for Ed Gillespie, wouldn't even go on Breitbart Radio. I think that is a faction of the new Republican Party that nobody wants to pay attention to. That's the faction that actually has an identity, a vision, is fighting for principles and core beliefs, as, say, compared to Republicans in the House and Senate, which are weak and timid and visionless and literally lacking identity.
I'm a resident of Virginia, so of course I'm saddened. I would have loved to see the state go Republican last night. But let's look at the facts. These are neither states they did not vote for President Trump, so that's issue number one we shouldn't be surprised with. And secondly, in a personage of a candidate like Gillespie, they're not MAGA candidates. They're not the Judge Moores. They're not the Kelly Ward. So why am I not surprised that he didn't want people like Steve Bannon, myself, or Breitbart to help him? Because
did you offer to go in too?
No, I mean, if he didn't want Steve to go, he was not going to ask me to go. So the bottom line is these are individuals, whether it's his advisors or not, doesn't matter. It's an elite that still does not understand what happened on November the 8th. November the 8th, Mike Flynn, I completely agree with what General Flynn said last year. He said November the 8th was a political revolution. Everything changed. A billionaire from Queens, New York, had people from, the Youngstown, Steel Valley, Democrat, manual laborer community vote for him. That's a political revolution, like the Democrats that voted for Ronald Reagan. And it's clear that Gillespie or his advisors or just the GOP writ large still don't understand what's happening to our great nation.
I don't think they understand at all. And, it's funny because there's so many times, so often they're wrong. All these reporters today saying, is this a big referendum on Trump? And I'm looking, you guys still don't get it. All right, we got to take a break. We'll come back. We'll continue. Dr. Sebastian Gorka is with us. By the way, brand new member of the Fox News Channel family as we welcome him aboard. Today, it's official.
We call on every nation, including China and Russia, to fully implement UN Security Council resolutions, downgrade diplomatic relations with the regime, and sever all ties of trade and technology. It is our responsibility and our duty to confront this danger together, because the longer we wait, the greater the danger grows and the fewer the options become. And to those nations that choose to ignore this threat, or worse still, to enable it, the weight of this crisis is on your conscience. I also have come here to this peninsula to deliver a message directly to the leader of the North Korean dictatorship. The weapons you are acquiring are not making you safer. They are putting your regime in grave danger. Every step you take down this dark path increases the peril you face. North Korea is not the paradise your grandfather envisioned. It is a hell that no person deserves. Yet despite every crime you have committed against God and man, you are ready to offer, and we will do that. We will offer a path to a much better future.
Joining us now is Dr. Sebastian Gorka. I'm going to go back. I'm actually going to play some of my call that I made into Fox on election night 1 year ago tonight. And I'm going to tell you something. It is how the faces of people all across the media landscape were shocked. And they're shocked today. And and let me add this. If Republicans don't win in 18, it's because, what, they didn't keep their promise to repeal and replace? It's because they barely can get a tax reform bill done? They're so afraid of class warfare rhetoric of the left that they actually are raising taxes on the wealthy and abandoning conservative supply side Reagan economics? It's absolutely stunning to me how afraid they are.
We're both, mature guys. We've been around the block. We've seen a thing or two. And you can only judge a human being or a group of human beings not based upon what they say, but we judge them upon what they do. Right, Sean?
Absolutely.
Let's do that with the president, and let's do that with the GOP. What has the president done in the last 9 months? It's just stunning. I know it's shocking for most people that this is a man who promises things and then actually does them. But look at it. Lowest unemployment in 17 years, 1.5 million jobs created, a stock market that's increased by 25%, ISIS's caliphate destroyed, NATO revitalized, our allies in Asia reassured. That's reality. That's not rhetoric. Okay, let's compare that with the GOP. What's the GOP done since January the 20th? Okay, they confirmed a Supreme Justice Gorsuch, which is great. What else have they done?
Nothing.
Exactly. Crickets.
Nothing. Crickets.
Right? And that they cannot get away with that because the American people, thanks to the president, thanks to his Twitter feed, are seeing through the lies. There's nothing conservative left about the GOP. It's business as usual. It's staying in power. It's about being milk toast. And that is what we have to shine a very bright light
But there
on.
are listen, it's funny because I've been interviewed by a lot of reporters over the years. I keep saying to them, the Trump agenda has been the Reagan agenda, and it has been what I never changed. The Republican Party of today abandoned me. They're the party that didn't want to use the power of the purse, enumerated powers. They're the ones that were afraid they'd get blamed for a government shutdown. They're now afraid of Chuck Schumer's and Nancy Pelosi's class warfare rhetoric. They're not doing what Reagan dropped the top marginal rates from 70 to 28%. They're raising taxes on basically every taxpayer except the middle class. I love what they're doing on the corporate side. It's right. It's Reagan-esque. But on personal income, on raising taxes, it's a big mistake. And the only reason they don't want to do it is they're afraid to fight. They don't stand for anything anymore. They're visionless and identityless.
Can I give you an example that just totally proved to me how deep the rot is? I spoke to a congressman when you were doing amazing work with Sarah Carter blowing up the whole fusion GPS and Uranium One story. I spoke to a congressman about, when is Congress finally going to look into this stuff? Not the Russian collusion delusion, but the Hillary corruption and the fusion GPS and Uranium One. And this congressman, who's a good guy, said, we've been trying for months, but the leadership is blocking us. The GOP leadership on the Hill is blocking us. And I said, why? Why would they block you investigating a Clinton Democrat massive pay-for-play corruption? And he said, the leadership does not wish to look biased. November the 8th is not one day, and it's not about one person. It's about an agenda, and you're right. It is about what Reagan, Thatcher, true conservatives stood for, and that's what 2018 is going to be about.
By the way, as they're getting their brains beaten in every night by a corrupt media. All right, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it. Dr. Sebastian Gorka.